Welcome all. Welcome to Lost in Our 40s, a podcast by women for women where we tackle everyday issues. Welcome on in. Welcome. Today we are tackling an interesting topic. Somehow I think I always say that, but this I chanced upon this recently and I found it so important that I thought, let me rush here. I need to share this with you. This is about we're calling it self points, and it's really about self worth. We talk about self worth and building it, and for the larger extent, we all probably think that yes, we probably all is a really big net, yeah. Many of us, let me put it that way. Many of us feel that we've had issues of self worth that we've needed to tackle. And to some extent, we probably think that we have or haven't. That to some extent, we've done something about it, we're better off now, or we are not. So, I want to give you a story, which is why I've come here so excitedly. I was reading a book, as often happens. This was on Audible. It's called The Worthy Project by Meadow Devon. And there, Meadow talks about just that worthiness and this topic, self worth, and how we tackle it and different issues. But she gives exercises, and these exercises are super poignant. They're super important. And the exercises she gives are like take a picture of your front door, a picture actually on your phone, just the way it is, without going to reorganize it or anything like that. Take the picture and then look at it and see what that picture tells you about you. See what the picture says about the person who lives in that home and just study it. You can zoom in, zoom around, and just see the different elements that you pick up there and what they tell you about you. So, what I found super interesting is I chanced upon the exercise the day after I had done some cleaning up. So, what it helped me understand is that I have a cycle in which I do go into like it's unproductive, uncreative, and a dull slump. A dull slump that I can get into. And I had already noticed that one of the ways that I realize that this is happening is with the um, cleanliness, especially the kitchen counter. If I find that the kitchen counter has started accumulating things, then I realize that even though I'm not consciously aware of it, that there's something going on with me. So what this book has helped me understand is that there are things that we do to build up our feelings of worthiness and things that we do to build them down, to bring them down. We are like in these cycles. So, in my example, what I've just given, in a situation where the dishes are just sitting and not getting washed, and in my defense, it doesn't happen for long. But anyway, that's not the point. To the extent that I start noticing that, and the other things, the other sluggishness that I might notice in my life, perhaps I won't feel like starting to procrastinate. I feel like starting to scroll on my phone. I feel lethargic. These are all tied into this. They have this snowballing effect into creating a deeper and deeper and deeper sense of worthlessness. They're removing from my self points. Self points being that whenever you're doing something like that, the scrolling on social media just endlessly, just on whatever platform it is you're on, and not really engaging yourself there. Because that's part of what we talk about, the drifting, moving away from yourself, moving away from being. You're not really there. You're just hoping to be not even entertained, distracted, distracted by other things. And these are the things that you need to notice, that if you do notice these things happening, this is the beginning, not the beginning, this is the engagement of the worth less, meaning that you feel like you're worth less than you should be worth cycle. And it builds up. Like for me, it probably starts with one plate, then before I know it, just many things just start happening. And then I'm just sitting there and I feel that I can't do anything. And the cleaning up for me is like the setting up of the sense of no worth. This is something that I want to do. I want to live I want to have a clean kitchen. I want my kitchen to be clean. That's what I've chosen for myself. And this is just an example from my life. It's not going to be the same example for everybody. But in my perspective, that's what happens. That's what I see. And then if I decide that I want to have this is the kind, I have taken the care to ensure that my kitchen counter is clean. That is me taking care of myself, because that's something that I've decided that I get to have. And in the example of the doorway, um, what she's showing is that if you look at it, if you look at your doorway or whatever, or rather the door, whatever it is that you have around there, it tells a story because it's a snapshot in time. It wasn't, you don't curate it. No one's going to look at your picture. Just go take the picture and look at it yourself. And you don't have to tell anyone how you've done it. It takes a snapshot of how things are going with you, because it's there, and it's not how pretty the door is or how wonderful the mat is. It's probably looking out for things like how how much of you is there, how in my case it's the neatness. I do like things being neat. So if I do find a point in time when I just have shoes all over the place, then that tells me that no, this is not me taking care of the environment in the way that I would want it. There are I looked at my picture and then I did see a couple of things and tell myself, aha, this is interesting. This for me, even after having done all the cleaning, this is taking up some space. The space is utilized in a way that I think could be better. And what she says is do one thing, one small tiny little thing to increase the um appearance. Is that the right word? To improve the space, to improve the space in a way that engages with you, because that is the point. We are adding self points. We are trying to make the world a better place for you, but starting with the small stuff, starting with your environment, starting with where you are, starting with where you live, starting with this door that you pass through every so often. I thought that was just amazing. That was just miraculous. So these self points, the way to think about them is this: the things that you do to engage with yourself, the things that you do to make you feel connected to yourself, are things that are building up your self points. Think of it like a piggy bank. So you have a piggy bank and you're adding coins. So the more coins, I was just thinking with this example that the piggy bank might be so outdated, yeah. I had a piggy bank when I was young, and because I even the concept of coins now. But just to go with the meta, just go with it. Let's go with the story. The imagery is going to work. It is. The other thing we can put is chocolate. When I was young, it wasn't chocolate. I think we used to get stars. We used to get stars on a chart whenever we do something good. And so whatever it is that you want to fill up, point being that there is something that you're filling up, and whenever you do fill it up, it's a positive. It's a positive. So yourself needs you. Yourself needs you to be engaged and to stand up for it. That is how you're getting self points. When you're standing up for yourself, say by doing things, taking time to consider whether or not you want to do what you're doing, taking the time. So the example I give is, you, assume you've gotten into a career because that was your parents' choice. They chose this for you. They told you go do this, and so you're in a career you possibly hate. You don't enjoy it. You've never enjoyed what you're doing, but because you needed to please your folks, that's where you are every single day of your life. You go to that job. You have never liked it. That is a cycle of greatly diminishing your self points, because this is you not standing up for yourself. This is you choosing someone else's dream and not your own. So whenever that happens, you're taking a coin out of this piggy bank. You're taking away from you. You're taking yourself away from you, because you're not valuing yourself. You haven't put yourself at the center. You have decided that other people's ideals get to be center stage, and you suffer the consequences, because then how do you enjoy your life? You're not in it. You have told yourself that you're not important. And this is how it ties into self worth. Because if you don't value what you want, you cannot then have this feeling of self worth. You cannot then shine. Your light is dimmed. Another example is just doing anything, going out with friends. So if your friends want to go out, you don't want to go out, or they want to go to this place, you want to go to that other place. Oftentimes, in my experience anyway, what I used to do is people are going, I'd go. No big deal. It wasn't, I'd never stop and ask myself whether or not this is something I want to do. It just never occurred to me. And that is taking a coin away from myself, because what if myself would have preferred to do something else? What if I would want to go sing karaoke while they are going to the library, as spinning that example on its head. Yeah. And it's the engagement with me to understand, what do I want to do? That pause to just query, to check in with you, to check in with yourself and say, what works for me. Super important, because then that determines whether or not you're adding a coin or taking one out. Yeah. And the more coins you have in your piggy bank, the more access you have to yourself, the more access you have to the more connected you are to yourself. That's what I was looking for. The more worthiness you feel, because you're giving yourself space, you're giving yourself opportunity and capacity to matter in your own eyes, be it in something as simple as choosing, um this example has to do with food, yeah. Choosing what to eat. So again, and this is actually a very good example from my perspective, because when I moved over to Europe, I needed to change my eating habits, what I eat, with because of the difference in climate. And I didn't want to. So I had to move to a bit more fatty foods. And this in my mind was wrong, because fat is wrong. I did not want to do this. So in my eating cycles, I've done a lot of things. I've done plenty of stuff. But point being that I had to listen to my body. I had to engage with my body and try to understand what it wants to eat. Because my body knows everything, it knows what's healthy for it. So, whereas in my mind, I'm chasing this illusion of a flat tummy, my body has much more important things at stake. My body is chasing after my health. So, this idealistic view of whatever it is that I think the perfect body should be, whatever you think the perfect body should be, should not take away from your own body's message. So that's something that I learned. And I found it super interesting to learn that that's something that I can do, that I can listen to my body, that my body has an opinion on what I eat, and that I can listen to it. And this for me was adding a coin into the piggy bank. That was adding self points onto myself. So the challenge here is to note, and this is really, really not easy, to note whether or not we are adding self points or lowering self points. And what Meadow mentions as the feelings that come around when we are in the negative cycle, when we are on the lowering of self worth, when we are removing the coins, are anger. She starts with fear, shame, anger, and sadness. And they can come up in such different ways. They can come up in surprising ways. And the trick that she gives is to try, just in a day, give like 5 reminders on your phone to just try and check in with yourself. Not try, to actually check in with yourself and try to understand whether you're in the positive or negative cycle of worthiness, whether you're adding self points or reducing them. And how you do this is by checking on any of those feelings that are going on in your system. So I've been doing this for the last couple of days, and I have been astounded. I thought that I was doing super well. I thought I'd get the gold stars from school. But apparently, because it's a cycle and it's something we go through all our lives, you can find yourself at different points in the positive or the negative. And having this thing of stopping and asking yourself, just right now, just this minute, how am I feeling? And am I feeling any fear? So just going into your body and asking yourself, do I note any fear? And if you do feel fear, what are you afraid of? If you do feel shame, she calls it guilty shame or shamey guilt, something like that. So shame or guilt, a combination of the two. What is that about if you're feeling it in your system? Anger. What are you angry at? What is making you sad? And these things might not even be fully related to each other. And you might find that there's something at the base that is much more raw than you anticipated. That might have nothing to do with what you're doing in the moment, but it's just something that is sitting there and you become aware of it. It's becoming aware that maybe this activity that you're engaged in at this moment tips you more towards the negative or towards the positive. And then when you have that information, it's data. We live in a world of data. When you have that information, then you are more keen. When you can be more keen. There's my reminder, right on cue. I set up a reminder. So there's my reminder right on cue. You can see whether or not what you're doing is, you have the data, sorry, that's where I was. You have the data to understand what kind of activities build you up and bring you down. And you can expand that to people. What kind of people build you up and bring you down? And this information can then be what you use to build up your self-worth. Because self-worth, it's really abstract when you say that you are worthy. Yes, you are. In some notion, I hope we all know that. We all have that information. We know that we are all worthy by virtue of just being here. But first, we don't hear it that often. Not every so often that you have someone telling you. I had a friend, I met up with a friend of mine yesterday, and she was telling me that. So it's really, really beautiful to have a friend who can pour into your cup. And for me, that was adding self points, because I was sharing a story with her that I won't get into it, but that was part of her feedback. And you do need that every once in a while. Someone just looking at you and telling you, yes, even as an adult, someone telling you that, yes, you're worthy. It's an important thing to have. And the vulnerability that comes with being able to receive such information is not something that we can get from everybody. And that's fine. So we also do need to be, to take care of who we open ourselves up to. But it is important to be able to open ourselves up, to have a community around us that helps build us up, helps add in the coins into the self-worth, into the self points, to add the self points, a piggy bank. I wonder if I had anything more I wanted to add on this. I think that's really it. That's a message that I had for us today, and I hope it's been worthwhile. It's really something that touched me. It touched me, and especially because she gives actual pointers on things to do. I want to share her book here, and you can see that's it, The Worthy Project by Meadow Devon. I got it on Audible, and if it's something that inspires you, I do recommend this one. This one it's a feel good one. It's a feel good one that gives you actual points and actual exercises on things you can do to grow that self-worth muscle. And I like the notion of self points, because now I can think of my life that way. Am I building or lowering my self points? Thank you so much, as always. I appreciate you joining, spending your time with me. Now I can't speak. Spending your time here with me. Love you. Bye bye, gorgeous.